Venom is the latest spin-off of a Marvel property by Sony, and I was really looking forward to this film when I heard about it, so let's talk about it.
A higher life form. What do you want from me?
You'll find out.
I am so sorry. We cannot just hurt people.
Look into my eyes, Eddie. The way I see it. We can do whatever we want.
So Venom stars Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock, and Venom, he does the voice of Venom too, and Eddie Brock's a reporter, and when the alien symbiotes crash down to Earth, and he's reporting on a case and doing some investigation, he stumbles upon one of the symbiotes which attaches itself to Eddie, and that symbiote is, of course, Venom. And Eddie Brock and Venom spend the film trying to take down Carlton Drake, who is essentially the villain of the film, as he's doing some symbiote experimentation, which Eddie Brock does not agree with. I believe that he wants to make humans live longer by maybe allowing them to live in space. I'm not entirely sure, but I think it had something to do with making humans live in space. Now, coming out of Venom, easily the most positive aspect of the film for me was Tom Hardy, and his performance was absolutely terrific, and I would think that about 90% of the people, at least seeing Venom, would definitely rate Tom Hardy's performance high, as he was definitely the shining light of the film. His acting was terrific, very realistic performances, and gave an all-round funny, genuine performance, which I really enjoyed. Tom's Venom voices were also really well done. I know they had some effects on them, but just the voice projection was awesome. It was clear, and it sounded really cool for a voice of Venom. It suited the character very, very well, and that's another thing I appreciated about Tom's performance. My other favourite aspect of the film would definitely have to be the interactions between Eddie Brock and Venom, as they are two separate beings. They are not one, so they have some really great back and forth. There are some really good comedic moments. For example, there's a scene where Venom tells Eddie to jump, and he doesn't jump, and Venom calls him a pussy. Another aspect I really enjoyed about the film was that Venom is listening to Eddie throughout the film. For example, Eddie only wants Venom to eat or hurt the bad people, and he explicitly tells this to Venom, and Venom obeys. So they had a nice little connection there, where they're actually listening to each other, and they're both getting a say in what they're doing, because when you think of Venom, you may not think that Eddie has much of a choice of what's going on, but I liked how this film conveys that Eddie does have a say in what goes on when the symbiote is within him. They also use each other for the greater good. They stop the villains, and they do save some people. That's why he's an anti-hero, because he's a little unconventional in his ways, eating people, but at the end of the day, he does use the symbiote to combat the villains, and does use the symbiote to save good people, which I enjoyed. I also really liked how Eddie would actually touch the Venom symbiote to become Venom willingly, as like I said, they would use each other, they had a good connection there, so they could stop the villains. Venom looks great. The CGI is really well done on his character. All around the board, the CGI looks good. Venom's character is really well written. His dialogue is fantastic. Nearly every bit of dialogue Venom has in this film is fantastic. It's either comedic gold, or it's something genuinely awesome that you'd want to hear Venom say, such as, there's a line, it's in the trailer, he says, he starts listing body parts. I'll put up a clip right now.
Eyes, lungs, pancreas, so many snacks, so little time.
That is right out of the comics, and that is something that I really enjoyed, just seeing him list off those parts. And Venom does have a comedic side to him in the comic books. He's not all serious, so I think that they definitely nailed this part of Venom's character in the film. Now, in terms of what was really good and really well done for Venom, that mainly comes from Tom Hardy's performance and Venom's character and his dialogue. The rest kind of takes it down a notch significantly. The rest of the performances, apart from Tom Hardy, are fine. They're nothing special. They're nothing to be remembered. The guy who played Carlton Drake was probably the second best, I would say. And then I did like the girlfriend of Eddie Brock's character, and I also liked the girl who was working for the Life Foundation. I thought they were both fine performances, and then all of the rest of the cast is pretty forgettable. All the rest of the actors don't really do too much in the film and aren't that memorable. There are some poor choices within the film's writing. For example, Eddie isn't very smart. There's a scene where he's meant to be taking photos of in some secret laboratory. He's not meant to be there, and there's clearly guards in the building, and he has his shutter on, so it makes the noise whenever he clicks on his iPhone. So I thought that maybe his character should have been written to be a bit smarter than that, considering he's a reporter. Does he normally just go around when he's not meant to with his shutter on, going click, 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 like does no one ever see him? You'd think that because he's a reporter, his character would know how to be, a little bit more stealth. And you would think that even after he heard it for the first time, he would turn it off. But he doesn't. He just proceeds to go click, click, click. No one hears it. There's also some moments which don't really make sense. I believe that I thought of this when it was actually happening in the film, but I was watching a review for the Venom movie today, and it got brought up, and I'm just like, oh yeah, I remember that, and I think that I was thinking that too while I was watching the film. But regardless, I'm going to bring it up anyway. There's a scene where Carlton Drake is taking like a school excursion, and there's a class, and one of the girls, she goes to ask a question, and the classmates shush her, and then Carlton Drake basically steps in and gives this whole monologue about how you shouldn't shush her, but then she never asks a question anyway. So I mean, it's kind of stupid. The big CGI fight at the end, you know it's coming, between Venom and Riot. It's in the trailer. I wouldn't say it's a spoiler to say that Carlton Drake gets infected by the Riot symbiote, because he does. It's whatever. Like, I mean, CGI fights between two big monsters, it doesn't really worry me. It was fine. It's forgettable. It was easily nowhere near the best part of the film. It's just something that was whatever. The other action scenes were genuinely fine. I liked the scene. I think it's actually an official clip on the Sony YouTube channel. It's where he gets a bunch of guns pointed at him once he comes out of a building, turns into Venom, and then starts throwing them everywhere. I liked the bit where he's in the apartment, another bit which is in the trailer, and like the arms come out of him. This is like one of the first times he's discovering his powers. And on that note, I did actually really like Eddie Brock when he discovers his powers, and his whole journey throughout the film of discovering the powers and then learning to accept them. And not only accept them, but use them for the greater good, which I touched on earlier. The film was paced relatively well. I did like that the Venom symbiote did turn into the Venom symbiote full about halfway through the film, so I'm glad that it wasn't just left to the third act, so we did actually get to see Venom in action for quite a fair bit of the film. There's enough character establishment for a few of the characters to make you at least show some care about them. It's going to be nothing that is going to amaze you by any means, but there's enough there that is established within the first act, second act, that by the time the third act comes, you somewhat care at least about one or two of the characters. There's also a Stan Lee cameo in this film, which I wish wasn't there, and as much as fun as it was to see Stan Lee in this film, and I did have a good chuckle when he came on screen because it was unexpected, but Stan Lee, as far as I'm aware, had nothing to do with the creation of Venom. That was Todd McFarlane who drew him, and I don't remember who the writer is. I think it was like David someone, I'm not sure, it'll be up there. So I wish his cameo was cut out of the film. Guys, Venom is a fun and enjoyable time, at least for Tom Hardy's performance as Venom and Eddie Brock, and for Eddie Brock and Venom's interactions. It's nothing to write home about, it's nothing amazing, it's definitely not one of the best superhero universe-based films of all time, or this year, but you can have a good time with the film, and I do believe that the critics and reviewers of this film who are bagging it have it wrong. I'm going to give Venom a 7 out of 10. I had fun with this film. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like the video, share it to your friends and people who want to see the Venom film, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.